Parmesan. This is my son Colin, who's serving as our subject today as we review how to assess active range of motion of the trunk and elbow. So first we're going to look at a novel way of assessing trunk rotation. For this motion, you're going to use a tape measure, and your starting point is going to be the acromion process. So you're going to palpate along the spine of the scapula to find the acromion process. And you're going to ask the subject to use the opposite hand to hold that in place. And Colin, I'm going to have you sit up tall, and I'm going to bring the tape measure around to the greater trochanter. So I'm going to palpate for that hip bone, and I'm going to make a note of the length of the tape measure. And the tape measure is at 26 inches between those 2 points. Now I'm going to ask the subject to do the motion. So Colin, I'm going to ask you to twist your trunk as if you want to look over your left shoulder towards me. You're going to twist as much as you possibly can. And now at the greater trochanter, I get a tape measure length of 29 inches. So that would indicate 3 inches. If the subject had very little trunk rotation, I might only have an inch difference. Okay? And the more difference you have obviously indicates the greater trunk rotation. Thank you, Colin. I'm going to ask you to stand up now.
That greater trunk rotation, is that good or bad?
Greater trunk rotation is a good thing. We want to be flexible.
All right, good. No more exercising.
Okay, now we're going to do trunk lateral flexion. I'm going to do the mirror image of what I'm going to ask you to do, which is simply standing straight in an alignment and then turning your trunk this way. And you're going to keep your palm towards your side with your fingers straight. Okay? You can come back up to stand. And I'm going to ask you to do that motion that we just did. Very good, keeping your fingers nice and straight. And for this, we start the tape measure at the end of the tip of the middle finger and go straight down to the floor. And simply record a measurement. I have 19.5 inches for that measurement. Obviously, the less lateral trunk flexion the subject has, it would be a greater distance. If you're going for improving that, at a reassessment, you would hope for a lesser distance to indicate more trunk lateral flexion. So that's 2 ways to measure movement of the trunk. Yes, Colin, have a seat over here, please. And now we're going to switch gears to the elbow. The elbow has, of course, 2 planes of motion only, flexion and extension. Why don't you come right to the end? And I'm going to have your arm straight by your side. This is, of course, complete elbow extension, which is 0 degrees or a straight line. Our axis point is going to be the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. So you'll need to palpate for that to have your axis point right over that. The humerus is going to be stable, so our stationary arm needs to be there. So my goniometer is backwards right now. So we need to turn this up. Lateral epicondyle, stationary arm of the goniometer. As he moves into elbow flexion, the movable arm comes with us. Okay? Colin, I'm going to ask you to keep your palm in alignment so that your thumb is leading. And I'm going to ask you to bend your elbow, bringing your thumb up towards your shoulder. Now, you may need to readjust your goniometer and your axis point. It's challenging because we have the muscle bulk here when your axis point is here to try to keep the goniometer flush. So you need to kind of eyeball that to some degree. And if we started at 0 degrees, a straight line, no angle, as we come up, we have 10, 20, 30 degrees or more. To here would be 90 degrees. Obviously, he bent his elbow much more than 90 degrees. So we're going above 90. And you're going to check your alignment, okay? You need to make sure that the stationary arm is in alignment with the humerus, this midline of the goniometer, and that the midline of the movable arm of the goniometer is in alignment with the radius and the ulna to where they end distally here. So if you have those two in alignment and you're at approximately the correct place for your axis point, where those two should meet should give you your correct angle. So Colin's active elbow flexion is 140 degrees, and that is normal. It is not 40 degrees. Obviously, he was able to bend his elbow much more than 40 degrees. Measuring elbow extension would be asking the client to straighten out the elbow, and Colin has normal elbow extension, but sometimes clients lack that last little bit of extension. So let's say he could only straighten his arm from here. You asked him to straighten and he only went to here. Can you hold that in place right there? You're measuring that angle. He has a, let's see, there's that lateral condo. That's a 70-degree angle. We would indicate that in our measurements as -70. He's lacking this last 70 degrees of elbow extension. Occasionally, some people have a little bit of hyperextension, and you could note that. Some people can have a little bit of laxity in the elbow joint and can come backwards kind of beyond 0, and you could measure that as well. But Colin is normal at 0 degrees. That is active elbow flexion and extension. Thank you.